The Young and the Restless Spoilers Shock in a dimly lit, abandoned hospital on the outskirts of town. Tension and mystery converged on a fateful evening that would forever change the dynamics between its inhabitants. The introductory video clip that had recently surfaced online offered a brief glimpse into a chaotic sequence of events, a scene that was as bewildering as it was dramatic. The clip began with Tracy stealthily snatching the phone from Alan's pocket while he was momentarily distracted in the restroom. Unbeknownst to him, this single act of impulsive curiosity would unravel a cascade of misunderstandings and explosive confrontations. Earlier that day, an urgent notification had flashed on the device, warning of an intruder within the hospital's derelict corridors. This alert was directly linked to the daring exploits of Nick and Billy, who had risked life and limb to breach the forsaken building and rescue innocent victims trapped inside. Their heroic intervention, however, was now shrouded in secrecy and suspicion, a secret that Tracy was determined to uncover. Alan, a man known for his buoyant and upbeat demeanor, had been absorbed in monitoring the situation, inadvertently leaving his phone behind as he retreated into the sanctuary of the restroom. His brief absence created the perfect opportunity for Tracy, who, driven by equal parts concern and curiosity, decided to open the phone and inspect the alert. As the screen lit up with the ominous message about an intruder at the hospital, Tracy's mind raced with a mixture of fear and fascination. Her actions, however, did not go unnoticed. Moments later, Alan re-emerged from the bathroom, his eyes immediately catching sight of his missing phone in Tracy's hand. His expression shifted in an instant, from one of calm happiness to suspicion and anger. In a raised voice that echoed off the peeling walls, Alan accused her of theft. "Tracy, you dishonest thief. How could you take my phone without asking?" he bellowed, the words sharp and laced with bitterness. Taken aback by the unexpected confrontation, Tracy's face flushed with a mix of hurt and indignation. "Alan, listen to me," she pleaded, her tone trembling with urgency. "I wasn't trying to steal anything. I was only worried that you might miss something critical, a message that could mean danger is lurking right outside." Her eyes searched his, desperate for understanding, as she tried to explain her motives. She knew well the gravity of the situation. With Nick and Billy's heroic efforts at the hospital, every minute was vital, and missing a notification could spell disaster for someone who might be in need of help. But the more Tracy tried to articulate her rationale, the deeper Alan sank into a spiral of rage. His once light-hearted demeanor was gone, replaced by a seething anger that filled the narrow hallway. "Don't you understand?" he snapped, his voice rising with each word. "I trusted you with my phone, and with that trust, I trusted you with my life. Now, I'm supposed to believe that you had nothing but concern in your heart? Your actions reek of control, of trying to take charge of my decisions without my permission." As the argument escalated, the room seemed to shrink around them, the oppressive silence of the abandoned hospital amplifying every heated word. Alan's frustration was palpable. His voice oscillated between moments of reflective sadness and bursts of unbridled fury. "Every time we're together, you act like you're the only one who knows what's best for me," he continued, his tone shifting dramatically from moments of brief, lost happiness to sharp, accusatory anger. "I'm not a puppet for you to manipulate with your so-called concern. I'm an adult, capable of making my own decisions, even if it means facing danger head-on." Tracy's heart pounded as she absorbed each of Alan's accusations. The weight of his words bore down on her, challenging every good intention she had when she had taken his phone. "Alan, please," she implored, her voice breaking with emotion. "I did this because I care about you. I was afraid you might miss that alert, and you know what that alert means. Nick and Billy are risking everything out there, and I couldn't stand the thought of you being left in the dark. I'm not trying to control you, I'm trying to help." But Alan's ears were deaf to her pleas. His mind, clouded by anger, fixed on the notion of betrayal. "You're not helping," he shouted, his eyes dark with hurt and frustration. "Every time you act, it's as if you're trying to claim a part of me, as if I'm something you can own or control. I need my space, my independence, and you keep trampling all over that." The intensity of the exchange grew with every passing second. Tracy, now standing face to face with Alan in the echoing emptiness of the hallway, felt a rising tide of indignation. She had never intended to diminish her own honor or belittle Alan's capabilities. Instead, her actions were rooted in a profound concern that the consequences of missing a critical alert could be far-reaching, not only affecting him but everyone who might be in danger. The memory of recent events, when both of them had come together to support each other during life-threatening moments, flashed through her mind. Just days before, in the thick of crisis, they had shared an embrace that transcended rivalry, a bond forged in the crucible of survival. And now, that sacred connection was being jeopardized by a petty quarrel. Unable to bear the erosion of her dignity any longer, Tracy's voice sharpened into a piercing command. "Alan, enough," she roared, her tone leaving no room for further argument. "I will not let you demean me any longer by accusing me of theft when all I was trying to do was protect you. Stop yelling and let me speak. I acted out of concern, not greed or control. If you truly cared about me, even a little, you'd understand that sometimes actions are driven by love, not malice." For a moment, the tension in the air was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Alan, his face contorted with conflicting emotions, seemed to hesitate, caught between the thunderous cadence of his own anger and the quiet plea in Tracy's eyes. The silence that followed was heavy and pregnant with the possibility of reconciliation, or, alternatively, a permanent fracture in their relationship. In that charged pause, both Alan and Tracy reflected on the events that had led them to this breaking point. Alan recalled the joyful moments before the chaos, a time when his life had been simpler, filled with laughter and unburdened trust. Tracy, on the other hand, remembered the moments of solidarity they had shared during previous crises, when their combined strengths had helped them overcome overwhelming odds. The recollection of these moments sparked a flicker of realization in both of them. Their fight over a phone and an accusation was but a small fraction of the larger battles they were destined to face together. Yet, even as that realization began to dawn on them, the wound inflicted by their harsh words would not heal instantly. The hospital's eerie silence bore witness to the echoes of their argument, an argument that transcended the immediate issue of a stolen phone and delved deep into the realms of trust, respect, and the struggle for independence. Alan, still reeling from the sudden surge of emotion, found himself questioning if his reaction had been driven more by past insecurities than by the present reality. Meanwhile, Tracy's heart, bruised yet resolute, vowed that she would not allow her good intentions to be misinterpreted as a means of control or manipulation. Slowly, the heated atmosphere began to subside as both parties recognized the futility of their argument. The abandoned hospital, once a mere backdrop to their explosive exchange, now seemed to symbolize the chaotic state of their own lives, a place where forgotten relics of the past collided with the urgent demands of the present. As the echo of Tracy's final command lingered in the air, a fragile silence took hold, a silence that spoke of both regret and the tentative promise of understanding. In that silence, the realization emerged that no matter how dire the external circumstances, the internal battles they fought were equally significant. The confrontation over a simple phone had exposed vulnerabilities, unspoken grievances, and the deep-seated need for mutual respect. It was a painful reminder that trust, once broken, demanded time and sincere effort to mend. And as the night wore on and the threat of the intruder continued to loom over the hospital, both Alan and Tracy found themselves at a crossroads, forced to choose between clinging to old wounds or forging a new path defined by empathy, accountability, and a shared commitment to protecting those they cared about. Ultimately, the events of that tumultuous evening would leave an indelible mark on their relationship. It was a moment when anger met sorrow, pride clashed with vulnerability, and both individuals were challenged to rise above their instinctual reactions. In the end, it was not the theft of a phone or the discovery of an intruder alert that would define their future, it was the arduous journey of learning to communicate, to trust, and to recognize that sometimes, the most critical battles are fought not against external enemies, but within the confines of one's own heart. And so, amid the crumbling walls of the deserted hospital and the fading echoes of their argument, a new chapter began, one that held the promise of redemption, reconciliation, and the slow, painful process of rebuilding what had been broken. A web of deception and desperation in the swirling chaos of Genoa City's latest crisis, nothing was as it seemed. Jack and the others had lost all contact with Tracy, a disappearance that sent shockwaves through their tight-knit circle. Just when anxiety had reached its peak, a cryptic text arrived on Jack's phone: Tracy was okay. Yet, the relief was short-lived, as new evidence and old suspicions began to converge into an even more convoluted mystery. The vanishing act moments before that reassuring text, a cold silence had enveloped every attempt to reach Tracy. Phones rang unanswered and messages lingered in the digital void. To an outside observer, it appeared as though she had simply vanished into thin air. But Tracy's message, stating she was safe, left many wondering if it was a carefully crafted ruse or a desperate call for help hidden beneath calm words. The ambiguity of her condition only deepened the mystery. Was she truly safe, or was it a temporary lie to stall for time? Martin's twisted plan. Meanwhile, Martin, already infamous as the relentless kidnapper, continued his nefarious activities. However, his latest scheme took a bizarre and unforeseen turn. In his ever-shifting labyrinth of plans, the question on everyone's mind was, where would he lock Tracy this time? Martin's original blueprint had been meticulously laid out, yet as events spiraled out of control, his plan became distorted by the rapid pace of unfolding developments. In his mind, the location of his next captive was not just another mark, it was a pawn in a larger, twisted game. The instability of his plan made it nearly impossible to predict his next move, adding an extra layer of urgency and fear to the already volatile situation. The naive pursuit of truth. In the midst of the mounting confusion, Jack sprang into action. Determined to uncover the truth, he rushed to find Alan, a man who had become entangled in this web of suspicion. Jack's questions were simple and earnest. "Where is Tracy?" Yet Alan's responses were vague and seemingly detached. His naivety, whether genuine or feigned, only fueled Jack's growing conviction that something was terribly wrong. Despite the lack of tangible evidence, Jack's instincts screamed that Alan was hiding more than he let on. Convinced that Alan had a sinister role to play, Jack's trust in his own judgment overshadowed the absence of clear proof. Frustrated and desperate, Jack was forced to leave the conversation without answers, his suspicions now as strong as ever. The unthinkable accusation. Jack's gut had never failed him before, and this time it pointed squarely at Alan. In Jack's eyes, the idea that Tracy, a woman who had never known the bitterness of enemies or the sting of hatred, could simply vanish without cause was inconceivable. How could someone as unassuming as Tracy, whose life had been free from malice, suddenly become the target of such a ruthless abduction? To Jack, it was unthinkable that anyone would dare to kidnap someone so devoid of past animosity. Yet, the cruel irony of the situation was that the only possible explanation lay in the dark recesses of human cruelty, the very cruelty he believed Alan was capable of. The horror of a life at stake. As the investigation deepened, an unsettling truth began to emerge: Tracy's life was hanging by a thread. The forces at play were not external but arose from a personal history of misdeeds and a capacity for unyielding cruelty. It was almost as if fate had conspired against her, marking her as vulnerable in a world where even the smallest misstep could lead to catastrophic consequences. The chilling realization struck everyone who knew her: Tracy's safety was no longer guaranteed, not because of the enemies she had made, but because of the shadow of inherent cruelty that now seemed to orbit her existence. A fractured trust and lingering doubts. In the days that followed, tensions escalated. Friends and allies found themselves questioning loyalties and the very nature of trust. How could someone, who had once been the epitome of harmlessness, now be thrust into the center of a dangerous game of cat and mouse? Every whispered conversation and furtive glance added to the growing paranoia. Was it possible that the person responsible for her disappearance was not an outsider at all, but someone from within their own ranks? Jack's suspicion of Alan had now morphed into an unshakable conviction: a conviction that, if proven true, would upend everything they thought they knew about the relationships that held their community together. Rewriting the narrative of desperation, the unfolding drama forced everyone to re-examine the chain of events. Tracy's reassuring text, once seen as a beacon of hope, was now scrutinized under a harsh, unyielding light. Had it been a feint to buy time, or merely a moment of calm before the storm returned? In this precarious balance between reality and illusion, every piece of information was both a clue and a red herring. Martin, ever the unpredictable mastermind, had disrupted the carefully laid plans that might have provided some clarity. With his new strategy in place, one that left the location of Tracy ambiguous, he had effectively thrown a wrench into the gears of the investigation. The chaotic nature of his planning made it clear that any expectation of a straightforward solution was futile. Instead, everyone was forced to navigate a maze of half-truths and conflicting testimonies, where each step forward only led to more questions. The convergence of fate and fury in the end, what emerged was a story not just of a single kidnapping, but of a deeply fractured network of trust and suspicion. Jack's unwavering determination to seek the truth clashed with the uncertain motives of those around him. Alan's ambiguous behavior, whether a result of genuine confusion or calculated evasion, added a layer of complexity that threatened to tear the fragile fabric of their community apart. The very idea that a person as benign as Tracy could be ensnared in such a perilous predicament was a stark reminder of the dark undercurrents that could lie hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. The narrative of that fateful period in Genoa City was one of constant change, a whirlwind where alliances were tested and loyalties questioned at every turn. As Jack wrestled with his growing suspicions, the absence of concrete evidence left him with nothing more than a relentless hunch and a sense of foreboding that would not subside. Each unanswered question about Tracy's whereabouts, every moment of silence in response to his inquiries, only served to deepen the mystery and heighten the stakes. A community on the brink. As the investigation continued, the repercussions of these events began to ripple outward, affecting not only those directly involved but the entire community. The horror of potentially losing Tracy, a person whose life had always been a testament to resilience and hope, spurred a collective urgency to unmask the true villain. Every resident of Genoa City, from the most influential figures to the everyday citizen, felt the impact of this chilling drama. It was a sobering reminder that beneath the veneer of normalcy, danger could lurk in the most unsuspecting corners. In a scenario where plans had unraveled and suspicion had taken root, the stakes had never been higher. The thought that a trusted individual could be capable of such cruelty was not only unsettling but also a catalyst for change. It forced each member of the community to confront uncomfortable truths about power, trust, and the fragility of human relationships. Conclusion. The uncertain road ahead, the mystery of Tracy's disappearance, the cryptic text that momentarily eased fears, and the ensuing suspicions surrounding Alan and Martin painted a picture of a world where nothing was black and white. Jack's desperate quest for answers, coupled with the dark machinations of Martin and the ambiguous behavior of Alan, set the stage for a dramatic showdown that could either restore order or plunge the community into further chaos. In this unfolding tale of deception, betrayal, and the constant struggle between good and evil, one thing remained clear: the lives of those involved were irrevocably intertwined, bound together by a series of events that neither time nor circumstance could easily unravel. As Genoa City braced itself for the uncertain road ahead, the only hope was that truth would eventually prevail, and the shadows that threatened to consume their lives would be banished by the light of understanding and justice. The fate of Tracy, and by extension, the future of the entire community, hung precariously in the balance, a stark reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers come not from external enemies, but from the darkness that lies within the hearts of those we least expect.